to go to the grocery store and buy carrots, apples, or if you like Brussels sprouts, you might buy some of those. Up north, you don't have that option, but you might be surrounded by lots and lots of beluga whales like Kavna and Aurora. Now those belugas are showing you just how much blubber surrounds their body, and in fact, Inuit have learned by consuming the blubber of belugas, they can get the same number of vitamins and minerals that we can get from our fruits and veggies, which is pretty incredible that you can use the land like that. Now what's really cool is no part of the beluga goes to waste, so even things like the skin that you're seeing of the animals can be used for things like shoelaces, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. Now we're talking about the Arctic here, somewhere that seems really far away. We are in Vancouver, but in fact we do impact the Arctic every single day. I see a lot of you have cell phones and cameras with you. You might have computers at home, and I use all of those things as well. What happens is every time we use those things, we're actually using energy, and energy produces carbon dioxide. Now what happens is that carbon dioxide can build up in our atmosphere because it does float up, and it acts like a giant blanket surrounding the planet. So just like for you, if you're cold, you put a blanket on, your body gets warmer, absolutely. We're actually seeing a warmer trend happening on the planet. Now where you're seeing this the most is up in the Arctic, where incredible animals like beluga whales live. Now what do you think this means for a beluga whale? Kavna in the back of the habitat, there's Qila. They're opening their mouths, they're reminding you it has something to do with food. Well, in fact, up in the Arctic you have sea ice, and underneath the sea ice you have sea ice algae. Now what happens is the belugas don't eat the algae, but small invertebrates like shrimp will actually eat the algae. You then have fish eating the invertebrates, and in turn you have really big white whales that eat a lot of fish. Now in fact these belugas weigh about 800 kilograms each, and that's smaller in the beluga world. So you can imagine how much fish they do need to consume. And here we're having at the front, Aurora's doing a bit of a roll to show you how much blubber she has. She really needs to eat a lot. We have Qila showing you how she can actually find her food by spitting water and exposing food. So lots of different ways these animals can find their food up north. But again, they do need to eat a lot. So what we're seeing is with the summers up north, we're actually finding that the ice is melting a lot quicker. In the winter, it's freezing slower. So there's less time available for this whole food chain to build up with the sea ice. And that is greatly impacting belugas directly in the Arctic. Now, I may have misled you. We're talking about belugas in the Arctic. In fact, there are belugas that live closer to people, especially in Canada. If you're from Eastern Canada, is anyone joining us from Eastern Canada today? It's okay, you can raise your hand. Most people are terrified to admit they're from Eastern. Okay, there's a few people. I'm from there as well. Welcome to Vancouver. You may actually live close to the population of beluga whales that live in the Saint-Laurent River. Now, in fact, those belugas, there's about 1,000 of them that live in the St. Lawrence. And you probably don't rely on them for food value, but you might rely on them for economic value. Now, in the case of belugas in the St. Lawrence, there are often whale watching tours that do go out and give you the chance to see beluga whales. Now, what you're seeing right now is our animals are kind of moving around the habitat. You're seeing a lot of their backs, and that's really common what you might see of a beluga whale swimming through the water. So you might have that really incredible chance to see those incredible whales. Now, that may not always be the chance. You might not know, but we do impact the lives of belugas in the St. Lawrence, just like the Arctic belugas are being impacted by people. Now, I have a pop geography quiz for you here. What are the two largest Canadian cities? One is French, and one is in Ontario. Does anyone know? Yell it out. Quebec, Montreal, and Toronto. I know you had it right idea. Montreal, Toronto. Now, you may not walk out your front door and see belugas, but you might actually impact belugas. Bigger cities do tend to produce maybe a lot more garbage than smaller towns. And in the case of belugas, garbage and chemicals and toxins are actually a concern for them because the waterways of the Great Lakes actually flow into the St. Lawrence River. And as we've just talked about, some beluga whales do live in the St. Lawrence River. Now, those chemicals and toxins can actually build up and build up in the blubber of belugas like you're seeing here. So there's Qila, Aurora. Let's just name them all. Aurora showing you just how much blubber she has. And what actually we have found is the blubber of belugas acts like a sponge and a lot of those chemicals and toxins can build up in their fat. And in fact, in the 1990s, several beluga whales were washing ashore in the Saint-Laurent River as dead animals. When researchers were looking at what had killed these animals, they found that the levels of toxins within the blubber were so high that the animals had to be disposed of as if they were toxic waste. And that's a terrifying thing to think about. Now, belugas don't only have to worry about pollution in the St. Lawrence, but in fact, living closer to people might actually mean more access or more time that you might be around things like boats. Now, in the case of belugas, they actually really use their environment to its full degree. And in fact, belugas can use a very special part of their environment, like the shallow rivers and estuaries. If you have a look at Aurora in the front, she's showing you just how comfortable she is coming into those shallow areas. Now, belugas can scratch off any extra skin or even give birth to their young. And for those of you underwater and above, have a look at the back of the habitat. Ta-da! There is Qila showing you how comfortable she is in shallow areas. So in fact, these shallow protected areas are very important to belugas, and very often these areas can be very murky. Now, baby belugas, when they're born, are actually a gray color, so they might be able to camouflage in these areas a bit better. But also because it's murky, belugas rely on sound to navigate through these areas. Now, to give you an idea of just how important sound is to belugas, if you listen really carefully, we might get to hear some sounds. As we said, they do use that to navigate through areas, but if you have a lot of boats in the areas, boats make a lot of noise too. So it might be harder for belugas to actually send and receive calls in these areas where more people are in their boats. A huge variety of sounds they do produce. Now, the sounds you just heard as well are very important to us here at the aquarium because we have the ability to allow researchers to come to the aquarium and work very closely with our belugas that you're seeing here right now. And that's all thanks to the relationship that our trainers have with these incredible animals. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what it's like to work with unbelievable beluga whales. We're going to pass it on over to Phil in the center of the habitat.
Thanks, Lauren. I'll give her the way so you can see where my voice is coming from. I'm working with Kavna, our oldest beluga whale. Now, working as a marine mammal trainer can definitely be very fun and very rewarding. You get to build those strong relationships with these animals. It's definitely very amazing. But because we work so closely with our beluga whales, one of the main responsibilities we have as marine mammal trainers is to ensure that all of our animals are nice and healthy. Now, by using that strong bond we have with our beluga whales, we can ask them for all sorts of behaviors that you've seen throughout the show. But more importantly, among those behaviors, we can ask them for animal husbandry behaviors. In other words, those are just any behaviors to help us monitor our animal's health. So, for example, what I've asked Kavna here to do is called a tail up. And if you look really closely, you may be able to spot these gray lines running along her flukes. And those are actually her blood vessels. So this is definitely a great place to draw blood on all of our beluga whales to ensure that they are in tip-top physical condition on the inside. And also by using our relationships with our belugas, we can participate in those meaningful research projects so we can learn more about these beautiful animals, so we can protect the belugas up in the Arctic as well as the ones in the Saint-Laurent River. Back to you, Lauren.
Thanks so much, Phil. And some of those meaningful